Hey, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Draglist Live, where we get to bench race with the world's top drag racers. My name's Bill Pratt. I'm thrilled to bring you this guest tonight. We are joined by the unstoppable Matt Stutzman, world-class archer, motivational powerhouse, and a rising star in drag racing. From hitting the bullseyes with his feet to launching down the quarter mile with a purpose-built precision, Matt shares grit, innovation, and a no excuses mindset and fuels every aspect of his journey. So Matt's with us tonight. I can't wait to bring him in. Let's go to John real quick, and then we'll get started. John, what's up, sir?
We're doing great here, Bill, and howdy from Houston, everybody. Please join us on the live chat. I'll take notes and I'll pass your questions and comments along to Bill and Matt.
Thank you, John. And folks, click the like, the little thumbs up down below, and click the share. Let your friends know we have Matt Stutzman live. And to prove it, let's bring him in. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hello, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Man,
I was
so
just
awesome.
I was just thinking real quick when you said make sure everybody gives it a like and a thumbs up. If you don't have arms, is the toes up still is good? Good enough? Because
That's
I'll
right.
give you a toes up.
I may have been a little insensitive right there. That's exactly right. Yeah. Well, you're rocking and rolling it, man. And there's the race car right behind you. I mean, we can't miss that. Let's get talking about that. So tell us about that, top sportsman machine.
Yeah, so take you back just like a couple years ago. I had a goal in mind to just want to go 200 miles per hour. So to fill everybody in, when I shoot my bow, the arrow is going about 200 miles per hour. And so I'm like, I want to know what that feels like. So a couple years ago, I started the process of trying to get stuff around that would pass all the safety protocols that would get me to 200 miles per hour safely. And now here we are 3 years later, and what we got is it's a pro mod, and it's a little bit older pro mod. Double frame rail. It's got all the goodies on it. It will grow with me, and now we have a big cubic inch hemi on
Woohoo.
alcohol as well.
Blown, baby, blown, that looks like, right?
Only
You're
way to
going all the
go.
way. So is that a Brad motor or what are we looking at there?
And Alan Johnson.
Alan Johnson now.
Hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, while we're on it, man, tell us a little bit about how you drive one of those. Obviously, it's different than most folks have. I mean, just can you walk us through the process?
Yeah. So, I ironically enough, I've been posting videos recently. We're filming this process of me getting to 200, right? And we're
Mhm.
starting to launch episodes, and I have a couple videos of me in the car driving, and it's so intriguing to me. One of the coolest features about this is, so yes, I use my feet to drive the car. My right foot is on the steering wheel, and in order for me to pass all the safety protocols, Stan 21 made me a custom SFI 20 sock, a
Okay.
7 layer sock that goes on my foot and it looks like a mitt. So when you watch the video, it still looks like a hand. And it's funny because people are like, don't believe it's my foot on the steering wheel because they just
Yeah.
can't tell. But my right foot is on the steering wheel, and then I got my burnout control buttons on there, my launch is on there, my parachutes is on there. So once I'm in the staging process, when I go from my left foot goes from the brake to the gas to launch mode, I never have to let go of the steering wheel after that. So
It's
I can stay
amazing.
safe during the entire run.
That's just amazing. I mean, it's one thing to know it's happening, it's another thing to really see it. And so obviously with the expertise and the control you have over a bow with tons and tons of I've shot bows and arrows when I was younger, and I mean, but I know the stuff you're dealing with is big, heavy duty stuff. I mean, you clearly have that control.
It's interesting because I feel the reason why I can shoot a bow like that or drive a car like I do is because I was born this way. So I don't really know anything different, right? So when my parents adopted me, we grew up on a farm, and they were very much like, "Hey, you need to drive the tractor here, and you need to drive the truck here." And so I learned how to drive at such a young age. In fact, I was probably like 9 or 10 maybe when I learned how to drive a motorcycle. You know, and that's where my love for motorsports kind of kicked in, because I realized it didn't care I had no arms, that it would wreck you anyway.
Yeah, believe me. How many guys have wrecked with, with everything?
Yeah.
It's not if, it's when. I guess that's what the bike guys.
That's what they say. With this car right here though, I ironically enough, I drive it by my booty, which means if the booty goes to shaking, then I'm letting, like, you know what I mean? Like, because I can feel that and let off before I see it happening. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, when I let off that button, I'm tuned into what my butt's doing, because that tells me if it's kind of going to go down or not.
Right.
You know, but
I've heard that before though. You're feeling it once you get to know the car. You can feel when it's, being unruly.
yeah, yeah. When it starts to shaking a little bit in the booty, then stuff's going on. But you got to be careful too, because that's when stuff can get out of control really quickly.
Right.
I did a lot of testing. It was something that I thought about for a while. So I've been drag racing on and off for probably 13 years. And it wasn't like one day I was like, hey, let's go 200 miles an hour. We worked our way up over the last 13 years into a car of this caliber.
Right.
Still got to be very careful with it, right? You got to respect it. But I have a great team that's around me who help me out with all this stuff and make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. And only one time has it ever gotten squirrely, and that was when I had a big block Chevy in there, and I had water, and the water, I forgot to drain the catch can, and it was dripping on the track and on the
Right.
launch. It kicked me sideways, shot me toward the wall, and I saved it. And after that, nobody on the internet really complained too much about my driving skills.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll do. Water, water doesn't care. The slicks don't care, do they? Something on the
Water
track.
don't care. And with this motor, it's a solid. I don't run water in this one, so
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that as much anymore.
So cool. Well, we were chatting a little bit before we came on, and you're from Iowa. And so the Draglist crew spent a lot of time in Eddyville. We used to meet out there once a year for the nostalgia race they started. It's been probably a decade and a half now, but tell us about that's the first place you got licensed, right?
Yeah, Bill, do you remember at the end of Eddyville, there's like a circle track?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever watch the races there at all?
I have not, but I'll bet it's a blast.
So they don't do that no more. And I actually, when I started coming to Eddyville, they weren't doing it anymore either. But I have friends who tell me about it all the time. A guy who helps me with the car tells me he used to race that little oval track all the time. But
Yeah.
Eddyville is 35, 40 minutes from me. It's the local track where, I can go, and they've really seen me progress to where I'm at, right? So they were there when I was a 10-second eighth mile, and then an 8-second, and then a 6-second. They watched me grow over the years, and the guys, there's a couple people who work there, or not work there, but race there all the time, that have really seen how this has worked, came up with some even good ideas. Even some of the welding on the car, I've kept that local with local people, so it's kind of like a little bit of a community thing. And it's awesome because they just treat me as like just one of the racers. They're not like, he has no arms or whatever. They just, when I show up, mainly a guy named Bruce, he's like, Matt's here, I don't want to lose to Bruce. Bruce doesn't want to lose to me. But even though I've never raced Bruce, if he's watching, I'm just smack talking a smidge.
Yeah. That's good. Oh, that's family to me. I know Gerald and oh gosh, there's everybody there. They were really kind to us. We used to have a really great time once a year.
Yeah, they're awesome. Gerald has it's crazy because I say open his arms to me. He's been very supportive in me trying things like, hey, Gerald, I'm going to bring a faster car. What do you think? No problem. He does a good job of, making sure the track is, if we're bringing a car like this, making sure the track's good enough that it's not going to be a problem for me to go down. And he's always been that way. In fact, he was the very first person to sign off on my license.
Oh, nice.
So my first, my first kind of professional drag racing license has his autograph on there. And I'm super proud of the fact that he was, a part of that, because he helped, me with that track kind of get to where I'm at with his willingness to let me drive with no arms there.
Right. That's just amazing. Let's Well, let's talk a little bit about the archery though. So they call you the armless archer. I don't know if that was, okay, walk us through how you got started in archery and what drove you to pursue it at an elite level.
Yeah, yeah. Another interesting story. So I actually came up with Armless Archer because I was trying to think of a catchy name. And so I started archery back in like 2000, October of 2010. And it was because I couldn't get a job and nobody would hire me. And I don't know if you remember 2010, just the economy was just
Yeah.
bad.
Oh, 08
And
sucked and 9 and 10 weren't much better. Yeah.
no, they weren't. And you just, whatever jobs there were there, they weren't hiring people with arms, right? And so I was just trying to figure out how, I got two at that time I had two boys, and I'm just how am I going to put food on the table? And I had this idea because I saw a guy on TV with a bow, and I'm like, that's how I'm going to provide. I'm going to teach myself how to shoot and then go in the woods, and I'm going to try to harvest the deer because in Iowa the deer are pretty big.
Yeah.
They're corn-fed deer here, so you can get a lot of meat for $20. So I remember Googling how to teach an armless guy how to shoot a bow. And in 2010, there was nothing.
Yeah.
So I had to teach myself how to do it. And basically, how I did that was I would watch a guy that had arms shoot a bow, and I would pretend I was him. So I'm sure when you were younger, there was somebody maybe you looked up to that maybe you try to mimic him and whatever it was, or that's what I was doing with this archer. And so if he held the bow with his right arm, I held the bow with my right foot, and then I designed a device that I hook onto the string and I activate it with my chin. When I did that, I had no plans of being like the world's best archer. My whole thought was like I just wanted to put food on the table, right? Because we're hungry. But I remember after 2 weeks, I had taught myself how to shoot. I was pretty good, and I kind of surprised myself. So that's when my friend of mine was like, "Dude, you need to go shoot tournaments. You could win some money." And man, that was probably one of the best decisions I made as a human being because it took my life from having nothing and didn't know how I was going to provide for my family to where I could excel to become the best in the world, and I started making a living doing it.
Wow.
I started to be able to figure out how to, I didn't have to worry about how the electric bill was getting paid, right? And just that alone feeling motivated me to keep going. And one of the best parts about it was that I get to shoot against people with arms.
Right. Oh,
so
really?
when I win, I can be like, let's go, that's like the ultimate. That's one of the reasons why I also love racing, because I'm competing against people with arms, and the car doesn't care I use my feet, and the bow doesn't care I use my feet. They just want to be shot, or they just want to get driven. And man, I didn't let the gas pedal off that archery. I sat in a chair for 7, 8 hours a day for like years, and I practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. And
Unbelievable. I mean, to me, I would assume that you started when you were a kid and you used a little bit of that kid muscle memory, like the junior dragster drivers now that are so good, or former, junior dragsters.
so
That's
Bill, I'll
unbelievable.
tell you a little story I haven't told very many people. My dad had a bow, and my brother had like this little fiberglass bow, like Robin Hood style.
Got one in
And
the
when
corner.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Same one I
yeah.
used at 12.
Yes, exactly. One of those. And I remember sitting when I was younger, I was probably 10 or 11. I remember sitting on the porch trying to figure out how to shoot it. Like I would hold up my left foot and try to, like I was, even then I dabbled, but I couldn't really ever figure it out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but by the time I got into it in 2010, the technology on the bows were so much better, and they had devices that would keep the arrow from falling off the rest, but back when I was younger, it was just
Yeah.
bad. And
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing that it happened when it happened, because I don't think I would have been mature enough to handle everything that would have, if I started shooting at a young age.
Right. Oh, just fascinating. Well, we can do, we'll get into that a little bit more. Let's check in with our chat crew and see
Mhm.
what folks have to say. John, who's out there tonight?
We're here from coast to coast tonight, and Crafty Kate is with us. She says, good evening, everybody. Pete Mariello in Los Angeles says, good evening. Rodney Potter in New York says, hi, everyone. Kay Thurkelson in Salt Lake City says, good evening, everyone. So looking forward to tonight's podcast. And she had a question for you, Matt. She said, I'm curious if Matt plans to compete in both NHRA and IHRA.
It's a good question. Well, before I get into that, I was training for the 2016 Olympic and Paralympic Games, and I actually lived in Salt Lake City, Utah for a year because they got one of the best archery training centers on the planet, about like 5 or 6 miles from the airport out there. So I actually lived in Salt Lake City. So I love Salt Lake City. Maybe one day I'll move back. I've talked about it, but I have my NHRA license right now, and so that's what I'm racing and chasing. And we'll be at, U.S. Nationals and Brainerd and all that kind of stuff.
man,
But
amazing.
IHRA is starting to look pretty appealing too. So it depends really on my budget.
Right.
I don't know if I'll make any necessarily this year because it wasn't in my budget when I planned out the whole year, but I would definitely be intrigued to go there, like for sure next year.
Okay,
Awesome.
cool. Rich Panicaro in New Jersey says, hello, everybody. And Redline Motorsports Media says it's been awesome to get to know Matt.
Listen, that guy is awesome. His name is Jerry. That guy has a phenomenal talent of taking photos and video. So he was with me at MoCan. I was at MoCan like a week or two ago, and I had to give an archery demonstration in front of like 5,000 people, and I decided to shoot half track with
Wow.
a bow. And he captured that for me, so I had those good memories. Anyway, I didn't miss. All that did was confirm that I'm still a better archer than a drag racer, because I ended up losing like 2 out of my 3 races, and then but I never missed the balloon every time I shot at it.
Nice. Well, welcome, man. Nice to have you with us, Mr. Redline.
Yeah, he also said, let's give the Armless Archer a big congrats on going over 60,000 followers on his Facebook page.
Beautiful. Woohoo!
I did that. Let's go.
Yeah.
What? I didn't even know.
We'll
What?
get you a few more tonight, hopefully. We'll trade some.
I appreciate it. I'm gonna have to make a special post now. That's awesome.
He said that's too cool, man. And right now I'm in Facebook jail. As soon as I get back in, I'm going to check in with you.
Hey, John, how do you end up in Facebook jail?
I have no idea. I didn't violate any of their standards or anything, and all of a sudden I got a message that my account had been disabled. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. I immediately submitted an appeal.
Yeah,
but
AI gone wrong, man, I think.
Yeah, Crafty Kate said she's been so focused on what Matt is saying, and she loves following you on social media. And Redline Motorsports said, you did it, man. And I thought I'd mention this shirt that I'm wearing was given to me at Eddyville for the first annual Draglist Nationals.
Really? Oh, yeah, my goodness.
That was in 2009.
Is that the first one, John? I can't even remember them. I have to go back and look at
photos. Wow.
Cool.
It was
Eddyville's like one of those little smaller tracks, but it's just awesome. Like the people are great. It's a short shutdown, so you got to be on the brakes.
Yes, it is.
But it's an amazing little track. I love it.
It was yeah, John and I both raced down the 8th there along with you. Of course, we only did it once or twice.
Yeah, we did, man.
What were you guys driving?
I brought I had a 70 Volkswagen Beetle that was a mile custom street rod, and I drove it up to Eddyville, and just, on a whim, I said, well, I'll go ahead and enter this thing. So I put it in there, and we had the street car championship. And I was racing against a good friend of mine that had a beautiful, huge Camaro from the Chicago area. He had drag slicks and wheelie bars and headers on this thing, man. And in the second round, he broke at the hit. And I just drove on down, just putted on down there. The ET guy, the time slip guy said, hey, man, you went slower on that run than you did on the first run. What happened? And I said, tire shake.
Yeah.
But we had a great time, man.
Your booty went to shaking, didn't it?
Yeah.
And you knew better lift.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Was that a V8 or did you put a V8 in it or something like that? Or
I would have loved to have done that. In fact, I met a guy at Keystone that had a bug, and he had a small block Chevy in the front of it, and he was a sportsman racer. He did great with it. I featured him as Racer of the Week a few months later.
Yeah. Cool car.
wow,
Yeah,
what
no,
is
this is original, man. It had a gas. John let me drive it once. It had a gas pedal about the size of a Hershey bar. You know, I mean, it was like
what?
it was like
Wow.
legit. What was it? A 65 or something, or was it a 70? You said right?
It was a 70.
Gotcha.
And the guy in at Keystone, his was like a 64, 65. It
Gotcha.
was an
Wow.
older model, and you'd look at it, you'd think it was bone stock. And you pop open that front hood, and here's a Chevy engine in it, man. And he was flying. It was great.
Well, so wait, they put the motor in the front of that?
Yeah, he put the motor in the front of it, and he had rear wheel drive, and
Oh, that's smart.
yeah, it was amazing. For all intents and purposes, it was a kind of an old school funny car.
Yeah. Because I've seen one with the motor, they put a V8 in the back and it just does wheelies all the time. Like
Oh wow.
well, they're so short wheelbase, you
Yeah.
know? Wow, that's
Awesome.
awesome.
So cool. John, anybody else have a thought?
Well, let's see what we have here. Mark Malinsky from New Jersey showed up, and Kay said, "Any interest for land speed racing on the Salt?"
Oh, okay. I want to bring something to you guys' attention. I love all forms of racing. And I like going fast, but I've always had this dream for a very long time that I wanted to set the world record for the fastest anybody's ever towed a trailer.
Right. Okay.
I think it's like 147 or 157 somewhere there miles per hour that a guy on the salt flats pulled a camper. And this was like probably like back in 2011 or 12 where I saw that and I was like, man, someday. And it would be out in the salt flats, but I don't know. I think it might be a little sketchy.
Well, make sure it's an Airstream, so it's nice.
Yeah, make sure it's an Airstream. What if you could hook it back? If you could hook it to this, I could get there in a hurry.
Well, that's awesome. Well, let's combine the two sports. You competed against the best in the world in archery. Does your training and prep routine, what's that look like, and how much of that mindset carries over to drag racing? I think you touched on it a bit.
They're identical. I would use racing. I use drag racing to help me train mentally for archery.
Okay.
So drag racing is very much yes, there's buybacks, and things like that, but you line up and if you're wrong, you hit the light wrong or whatever, like you don't get that run back. So you
Right.
got to be absolutely focused and make each run count. And the same with archery. Once I shoot that arrow, I can't get that arrow back. It scores what it scores.
Right.
And so I would use that mental prep as far as the approach, the process, the same way. And then what really helped me, because we were running, in the 4-second class, is I would get a little bit of adrenaline going. So I would race the car, and then I would get out, and then you'd shoot your bow until the adrenaline wears off.
Okay.
Because when you're at the games, the games are every 4 years. So you train for 4 years for one moment, and you only get, like for me, I only had a shot at one medal, and it's single elimination. And if you lose, you go home, and they cram it all into one day.
Wow.
So you got 4 years into 8 hours. And what happens is your body just naturally creates adrenaline because, so I was thinking like, how do I create adrenaline all the time while I'm practicing? I went even as far as like putting this car out at 100 yards with the door off and then putting the target on the other side. And I would shoot through the house and the arrow would go 100 yards and they would go through this door and out the other door. And then I would hit the target. That way I had consequences if I missed.
Wow.
So it would naturally give me a little bit of pressure, like, because I don't want to shoot and hit a fire extinguisher bottle or a CO2 bottle or, stuff like that. And so that's how I used it to make me a better archer. And then what I learned at Paris going through the matches and what I learned as far as how to remain calm with all the people watching and not even knowing they're there, I'm now taking on into the racing. And I'm so focused now I'm in a race car, I forget about everybody around me. I forget about who I'm racing. I'm just, time slows down a little bit, and it's so cool.
That's unbelievable. And it's a lot of people have tried that. And I guess they've gotten better at it over the years, but I remember one of the top fuel crew chiefs, I think it was Gary Ormsby he was working for. He even put up big like blinders, like a horse blinder on sides of the car so he wouldn't look around. And
Really?
so he forced him to focus. This is mid 80s, I guess, but
They're still doing it now with helmets. Like they'll tape up half the helmet so they can only see straight forward, or stuff like that. But um
yeah.
it's amazing how much racing is a mental game.
Yeah.
Like if the car is going to do its thing, you just got to be mentally relaxed enough in there to do everything the same every single time. Like
Right.
letting off that button. You think it would be easy to let off a button and hit a
Yeah.
consistent light. But if
Yeah.
your adrenaline pumps, or maybe you're pushing the button harder than you did before, so when you come off it, it's a little slower. And it's
Right.
just, mental. I feel like mentals. So I do motivational speaking, and one of the things that I feel like is important, and I've been telling people, is that I've learned that success isn't has nothing to do with hands. It's all about the mindset,
Right.
really. So
Man, you're living it, man. So, speaking of like getting that good, right? There's a moment it seems like with every athlete's journey, when everything kind of clicks, they realize they're not just competing, they're actually dominating or at the very, very top. I mean, do you recall that moment in archery when I'm still amazed 15 years ago you just picked it up. That is unusual for anybody in a world-class sport. So, but when did you feel like, I could actually do this thing and actually win? Not just kind of compete, but take some trophies and take some cash.
I remember the first time, this was a year after I started shooting, I got invited to come to a training camp for Team USA.
Hmm.
And after the whole camp was over on the last day, they held a tournament, and I remember winning.
Wow.
And I was competing against people who had been to other Olympic or Paralympic games. You know what I mean? Like and I was thinking to myself, is this a fluke? Did they just mess up on purpose, or am I really that good? Like, I didn't know how to handle that. But for me, it really kicked in right after London. I went into London with a year of experience and got silver.
Wow.
And I
Congratulations.
remember thinking to myself, wow, I made it. Like this is what it's like to be able to provide and put food on the table, like and being able to be the best in the world, right? Like this is what it feels like. And all that did was give me momentum and positivityness in my brain that I can be the best in the world at this
Right.
sport. I got to keep working at it, obviously, but I can still compete against these guys and win. And I think that's for me when I kind of realized that I had something going there that was something special.
That's fantastic. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the money aspect, not how much, of course, but how it comes to you. Is the prize money significant for archery tournaments? Are there endorsements? Because clearly you'd be a walking, advertisement for these fantastic sportsman companies in the world. I remember we got to go back in those days, but the hunting and fishing and archery magazines are gigantic, right? How are you providing for your family based on these skills?
I have learned throughout my archery career, even when I wasn't that good, um, companies will sponsor people that they believe have the same thought process as them or believe in the same thing.
Hmm.
And they will very much sponsor somebody if you're a good person and not winning every single time versus somebody who wins all the time. And so at the beginning, a lot of it was sponsorship money from companies.
Hmm.
I wear shirts, I wear their logos, I shoot their equipment,
Right.
and that's where the money kind of came from. And then I started winning. So then there was contingency involved, and so just to give you an idea, this tournament I'm going to tell you about is the only tournament that I have shot at that I haven't made it into like the shoot off scenario. But
Hmm.
if you win, I mean, you're talking upwards of over $100,000.
Wow.
So like I mean, it's a lot of money you can win, like, and then there's contingencies involved, and
Right.
if you do well and stuff like that. So it's it's basically probably 1% of all archers in the world could make a living shooting a bow. But a lot of the money comes from sponsorships to get you there. And then the
Right.
bonuses where you really excel is when you start winning and getting all the extra money that comes involved with it. Then once I started getting that taken off, I started getting that credibility. Then I started having like schools and companies reach out. Hey, do you do motivational speaking?
Yeah.
So then for me, then I was like, yeah, I do. So that really helped kind of, then the motivational side of things kind of took off as well.
Right.
And it just grew like crazy over the last 12, 13 years.
Well, that's fantastic because obviously a terrific story. You're a fantastic outgoing guy, and it's like I say, match made in heaven. That's really awesome. And people do get behind, they get behind good people who, who want to excel and make the world a better place. Man, I see John working hard. Let me bring in the chat guys and gals and see if they have any other thoughts.
Yes, actually, Jay Radabaugh checked in with us, and he just had an announcement to make that the modified eliminator racer John Russell, driver of the H Mad Maverick from Lebanon, Ohio, turned 90 Saturday.
Okay.
He's still going strong and is planning on racing in Bowling Green this September. And he was the Grand Marshal at the Killcare reunion last year.
Awesome. Thank you, Jay.
Wow.
Welcome, brother. That's good stuff.
And for what I can see, we're all caught up for the moment.
Cool. Well, great comment from Jay, and appreciate that. Jay
Yeah,
goes
we have a
back to
good
that.
crowd here tonight, and everybody's excited about this show. I thought I'd mention that, from what I've seen that you've done, Matt, uh, your archery is absolutely world class, man. I mean, I can't think of anybody that's better at it. And you're just a really great athlete and a great drag racer. And we're very proud that you're with us tonight.
Well, listen, I appreciate you reaching out to me and getting me on. It's always been a dream of mine. You have John Force, who does a lot of, interviews in the racing world, and I get a lot of interviews on the archery side, and I kind of was thinking in my head, like, what do I have to do to be a John Force, right, in the racing side? So I kind of feel like, a little bit of a racing celebrity at the moment, which is kind of cool. But
Yeah.
it's interesting to think about when you said when you talk about archery, because in the gold medal match in the finals, so the distance we were shooting is 55 yards, and then the bullseye, if you would make a fist right now, and look at your fist, that's what the bullseye would look like
Wow.
from 55 yards, half a football field. And I remember shooting that gold medal match, and I shot 149 points out of 150, which is now officially the highest elimination score ever shot in the history of the games. And the first thing,
Man,
the
that's
first thing my
great.
dad said was like, "What happened to that one you missed?"
Yeah. Pop's gonna keep you humble. Well, we're the numbers guys here. We track all the best speeds and ETs across all time. So that buck 49 out of 150 is impressive. That's unbelievable. So
I was
holy
hoping
cow.
to be the first person to ever shoot a perfect score at a games, but I got close, just missed one.
That is unreal. Well, so here's my question, and I'm not asking you to tell tales, or we don't want to make this about negativity, but is anybody, in the archery or racing community, were they accepting right away, or they're like, wait a minute, this cat's not doing it like we're doing it. He has an unfair advantage. Have you ever heard anything like that?
So even now, I still get it all the time. I do a very good job of not looking at comments on social media stuff. I post, if you go back and look at all my stuff, it's always positive stuff, things like that. The comments that I was told that were on there, I think, even me, I just went and looked a little bit, like I had, I would never line up again, beside him. What if he's doing 200 and the axle breaks? And I'm thinking, if he axle breaks, it doesn't matter if you got arms or not. You're just
Yeah.
along for the ride, like, archery specifically, there's been tournaments where I've won, like able-bodied class. Like in 2017, I was able-bodied national champion. I beat everybody in the whole United States.
Wow.
And they had arms, which is amazing. But
Yeah.
I got protested, because they thought how I shot was different. And of course, I wasn't doing anything different. But I have learned to just not care about that stuff. I went through USA Archery with archery, and I learned the rules, and I shot exactly to spec. I adapted to their equipment. I didn't bring in my own.
Right.
So nothing was different, right? And so when people complain and say stuff about me, it just kind of goes in one ear and out the other. And same way with drag racing. I don't listen to nobody, because there's no point. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, that's fascinating. And you brought up the bow or the equipment, and I assumed there would be different equipment in the car, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit. You chatted about it a little bit, but you're saying that you're using exactly the same bow that everyone else is. You're just adapting your body to the leverage.
Yeah, my bow is a bow off the shelf that you can get at any archery store.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive and unexpected. I really thought that there would be a different setup.
No, in fact, even when it comes to the draw weight, they cap it at 60 pounds. Like nobody's allowed to shoot over 60 pounds. So, I mean, that's what I shoot, I shot for 13 years professionally with Team USA, and every time I showed up to any type of tournament, the judges always teched and spec'd my bow to make sure it was legal. And in 13 years, out of the hundreds and hundreds of events I would do, I've never been disqualified because the equipment not right. So I pride myself in abiding by the rules and competing clean and stuff like that. And that way, when I do win, I got nothing to worry about, and I can just be proud of the moment.
It's like drag racers back in the day, but before like bracket racing, even in top sportsman, they were where you do super stock, and then you're, oh, wait a minute, I want to protest that guy, and then you got to tear him down, and then there's a protest cost. It's pretty amazing that cool. So John, you got a thought, sir?
Yeah, listening to what you were just saying, Matt, whenever you win and you've won everything there is to win in that class, there's going to be detractors. There's going to be people that are going to complain about it and gripe about it or whatever. But hey, you did it according to the rules and you won. And I know how that goes. I won every art contest I ever entered. I finally quit doing that because everybody was complaining about it. So I said, well then, okay, let them have it, man. I mean, I don't have to do that. But you did great, and that's what happens when you do great is there's going to be people that are going to say, hey, that's not right or whatever, and it is right. You did fine.
I think the biggest thing right now is people saying I'm not safe to race. And they don't understand that I spent a year and a half getting all the stuff around and going through NHRA and doing all these things, and whatever they asked of me, I just did it without question. I never said, why do I have to do that? I just did it.
Yeah.
Like I can shut my car off blindfolded and get out of the car in like 18 seconds. But people are like, he'll never be able to get out of the car. Well, look, they had me put in a window net that you just flick one little lever and the whole thing just drops out.
Right.
Like they don't understand. I did all this safety stuff. There's a lever down by the brake pedal. I just have to yank on it or touch it, and it pops my seatbelts out like instantly. I can be out of the car. They don't know that, right? So
yeah,
I just pride myself in doing what they asked without complaining. So now I can have fun and race, and then I don't need to listen to the people online.
Right.
Bottom line, you got the cert, right? I mean,
I got the cert.
You got the license.
I got the license. I got the certs. I can go 200 plus miles an hour. I just can't go faster than a 6.1 in the quarter.
You and about 3,800 other top sportsman racers. Let me.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Kay asked. She asked who or what inspired you to get into the drag racing thing.
Yeah, so for me, it was just when I was younger. A guy came to me and he had a motorcycle, I was in my teens or low teens, and he said, Matt, I don't believe that you can fix this, but if you can fix it, you can have it. So I spent 3 months. I didn't know anything about anything. I spent 3 months just taking it all apart and writing it all down and figuring out how it works. And then I put it back together. And when it was a Suzuki 125, and I kickstarted it and it started. And I was like, oh, this is the best moment of my life. This is amazing. And then I remember shutting it off. And then I was like, I'm going to go get my dad and see if he'll ride it to make sure it runs good. But then I started thinking, well, that's not really fair because I did all the work. So I started figuring out how I was going to drive it. So I got a vice grip and I put a vice grip on the throttle. And then I laid on the tank with my chest. And then my left shoulder could reach the clutch. So I squeezed in the clutch. I kickstarted it. And the vibration of the motor made the weight of the vice grip just peg the full throttle. So, and then it scared me and I let off the clutch. And I had never rode a bike in my life. And there I was like flying through the yard in our field, dodging trees and chickens and cows. I didn't know how to stop it. I'm just like, and I didn't even know how to shift out of first. So just maxing out first gear, going, I'm flying toward our barn and I'm like, uh-oh, this is going to hurt. And then what saved me was the fact that I didn't know two-strokes at that time needed oil in the gas. So it locked up and I came to a stop like a foot from the barn. And I literally remember thinking to myself, someday I'm going to do something in motorsports because that was the coolest experience of my life. The bike didn't care that I was on it. Like I could just get on a bike or I could get in a car and I can just go hang out with the guys and it's amazing to me, but in the racing world, everybody I have met has treated me like family.
Right.
You know, like everybody's nice. And if I have a problem, they're the first to run up and see if I need anything or, you know, like it's just it's awesome. And I think it speaks well of the, you know, the racing community and really how awesome it is.
Yeah, it is a big family. We're glad you're in it. Great stuff. Well, let's talk a little bit about mindset. Where are we at? I want to get this one in first. So let me ask you this, and then we don't have to stop right at time, but I don't know how much time you got because this is going great. But what advice do you give to people, especially kids, who feel like the deck is stacked against them? You know, give us a little bit of your motivational speech. I imagine you're talking to schools and young folks who often are kind of lost, you know, and are looking there. A lot of not everybody has a dad like you, and you know, like we had, you know, to look up to. And give us a little bit of what you tell kids these days.
So for me, a lot of it has to do with mindset and the ability to look at something and figure out how to do it. So the best example I guess I can give you is that when I was younger, there was a time in my life that I wanted to be a professional basketball player. Okay. The reality is I was never going to be a professional basketball player because I have no arms and I can't dunk a ball. But I remember my dad giving me a basketball and said, start training. And that stuck with me because he knew I would never be able to play basketball or be in the NBA, but he wanted me to try to live the dream. And what I've learned through all this, so what I would tell kids is this: so you may have a problem in life or you may have a dream in life, but if it doesn't work out, that doesn't mean the world's over because there's other things that might come along that you, as long as you stay focused, that you could do to fulfill your dream. So I get to live my dream as a professional archer. I'm taking care of my boys and my family, and it's not basketball. But guess what? I'm doing the same exact thing as if it was basketball. So basically, I tell kids that no matter how hard it gets, you just can't give up. Like you have to look outside the box. You got to keep a strong mindset of I can do this and I will do this and keep going no matter how difficult it gets.
No, absolutely. That's very inspirational and very true. And so, gosh, where are we at? Let me do let's see, focus, timing, precision. I'm looking for all this, all these other things. Tell the folks where they can find you. Can we follow along with
Yeah, absolutely. So right now I'm in the middle of the quest for 200. So it's a 10 series, 10 episode series that I've been filming and then I've been releasing it. And one of my good sponsors not trying to plug them for you guys. Pengrade,
Pengrade.
Pengrade 1
We know. I
has
got
come
the
on
hat.
board, and they've been helping me with that a lot. So if you want, you can follow along on Pengrade 1. They're every week or two they release a new episode, and then it's on YouTube, it's on their Twitter, it's on their Instagram, it's on their Facebook. You can also go to Armless Archer on Facebook, and I also share the link, so it will take you to where you need to go, that you can follow that. But if you're Armless Archer is pretty much a majority of all my stuff. If you're looking at more of information on like maybe speaking events and things like that, just Google armlessmatt.com, and there's a whole list of it shows my racing, it shows my archery, it shows my motivational speaking, how to get a hold of me if you'd like to book me, that kind of stuff.
That's fantastic. And I guess one thing I want to chat, but we always ask, do you have any shout outs to sponsor what just did for Pengrade? By the way, Nitro Joe Morrison, the Top Fuel and Funny Car racer, also a big Pengrade guy. So that's where I got my hat. Thank you, Nitro Joe. If you see this,
Nitro Joe's a good guy.
Yeah,
him and I talk. Him and I talk all the time. In fact, at one time I had brought up a point that I think him and I should race an arrow. Like he should take his top fuel, he should take his top funny car and stage it, and I'll sit in the other lane with my arrow, and we'll see if my arrow makes it to the 1,000-foot faster than he can make it to the 1,000-foot.
I bet you hit 200 faster than he does, I guarantee.
Yeah, I start losing energy pretty quickly, though, where he's picking up steam. And if the car goes down, I think it'd be a good race. But I do have quite a bit of sponsors. To shout out them, all of them would be kind of a little bit difficult. But I just want to do a couple. Allianz, you have Pengrade 1, Oil, and Google. I also have Quick Performance, Stand 21. They make all my my race suits and keep me safe there. And then MPI made me a custom steering wheel that fits my foot just right. We got Stroud, who takes care of all my safety stuff as far as parachutes and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but if I did, I'm sorry. But definitely thank everyone for their support, because without their help, you guys know racing at this level would be very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me give John one last chance, and the guys on chat. Any final thoughts or questions from the group? No, John, we got you muted, bro.
Sorry about that. Everybody has commented how wonderful this interview has been, man. You've just been a great guest with us. Kay Thurkelson says she hopes to meet you soon, possibly at the U.S. Nationals.
Yes. If you ever make it to U.S. Nationals, for everyone listening, listen, come over and say hi to me, please. Like, I would be honored to meet you guys, because I know that fans also help, the race program go a long way. But just more importantly, just cheering me on and what I'm doing. And I think that's awesome. So please feel free to reach out to me wherever. If you see a big Stutzman racing canopy with the car there, please come by and say hi. If you see another racer without arms, please tell me, because I think I'm the only one. Yeah. But
well, I've heard of people having hand controls for race cars, but I've never heard of anybody driving it like you. You're one of a kind.
Thanks. I have seen cars that have hand controls too. But listen, I think anybody can drive a car, right? So just getting past the safety protocols is really the important part.
Yeah. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Stutzman, the Armless Archer, also the top sportsman king of Division 5, or aiming for it. Sir, have a wonderful rest of the season. Keep in touch, and we'll see you somewhere down the road.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Stutzman. See you later, sir. Let's turn it over to John Bachman for this week's JB's Take. John, take it away.
Thanks, Bill. With Ozzy passing away last week, I was reminded of an experience I had with heavy metal, and I thought I'd share it tonight with y'all. In the last half of the 1980s, I worked in a recording studio. I had an extensive backlog of original material that I had written over the years, and I was compelled to take 6 years off from playing in bands and get my songs recorded, copyrighted, and saved. It was the happiest time of my life. I wrote all the songs, played all the instruments, did all the vocals, and I had complete artistic freedom to record anything I wanted. I never had that before or since, and I made the most of it. I wrote songs in every style: blues, rock and roll, jazz, pop, classical, heavy metal, punk, alternative, acoustic. I did everything I could produce in there. I ended up using the studio as an instrument and a creative outlet. I ended up with 72 songs by the time I returned to playing live as the bass player with the Kingfishers, but that's another story. One song that I'm talking about tonight is a heavy metal song that I had written the music to 13 years earlier, but I never got around to finishing it. I went ahead and recorded the instruments, and I had it on a cassette tape along with some demos that I was working on. But one evening, my girlfriend, who was a heavy metal fan, came over, and she was listening to my demos with headphones on, and she came across that song. She was floored. She got up and came over to me and commanded me to finish the song. I have decided not to mention the title of the song, but musically and lyrically, it went above and beyond any other heavy metal song I've ever heard before or since. I obeyed her command. The lyrics I wrote were a combination of some stuff that my biker friends told me, and they had tattoos that said the same thing. I also used some words that my outlaw street lacers said to me. I added my own lyrics to establish a theme of the song, and I put an intro in it and a chorus together at the end of the 4 verses to complete the arrangement. A few weeks later, I took her to the studio and recorded the vocal track. She stood in front of me holding the lyric sheet that I had written on a poster. I got roaring drunk and screamed the vocals at the top of my lungs. She smiled and laughed all the way through it, and when it was finished, she had spit all over her. We celebrated. It was finally done. I sent a copy to the local college radio station. They loved it, but they told me that since they couldn't play it on their program, they sent the tape to the local Pacifica public radio station. That was the end of it as far as I knew, but I was satisfied with the recording, and I moved on to other stuff that I had written from there. A couple of years later, I was at work one day, and a guy I'd never met before came up to me, and he said, "Are you John Bockelman?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Did you write and record a song called blah, blah, blah?" I said, "Well, yes, I did." He said, "You may not know this, but your song is an underground hit, man. KPFT copied your tape and it went worldwide on public radio. It became an anthem and it gets regular airplay all the time." Well, I was completely blindsided. I had no idea that that song actually caught on and became a national heavy metal hit. I had also sent a copy of the song to my friend George in North Texas. He came to town not long after I found out that the public radio had sent the song to the West Coast. George said for me to come with him to a trucker and biker bar on the east side of town. So I went with him. We pulled up into the parking lot, and I said, "I am going to go in there and get my ass kicked big time." Well, we went in, and a huge guy came up and met us at the entryway. He said, "Are you Johnny Bockelman?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Johnny, it's an honor to have you with us here tonight. Your song, blah, 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 is the national anthem for truckers and bikers. We love it. You are royalty with us. Please take the VIP booth and have your drinks on the house from now on." Well, I couldn't believe it. You know, I'm not a heavy metal guy. I'm moderately groomed, and the majority of my music is mainstream friendly for the most part. But that song crashed through barriers that have yet to be exceeded. All I did was send it to a radio station. And my son's band is a progressive death metal band, and I love their music. It relaxes me. As I've said before, heavy metal is not my cup of tea, but in all the songs I wrote, a couple or 3 of them were done in that style. Well, this one went beyond my imagination. I did my best on it, and it went all the way. I never made a dime off of it, but what I did was get recognition, and I appreciated all the praise that I received for it. I got back together with Debbie a few years later, and we're married again. But I'm grateful to my girlfriend at that time for motivating me to record the final take of that song. My friend Colin took all of my master tapes to Warner Brothers in Los Angeles, and he remixed and mastered all of my material digitally into 7 albums. I ended up condensing it all into 2 albums that I call Sound and Fury. And Colin's 7-album collection is titled Orchards. He included outtakes and throwaway songs, and I culled it down to around 32 songs total. It's good. I still haven't decided what I'm going to do with all that material, but tonight I wanted to focus on that one heavy metal song and dedicate it to Ozzy. Debbie had an accident the other day. She ran over a curb with her Ford Escape, and it broke the steering and suspension on her right front wheel. Right now the car's in the shop. It'll get fixed. I'm just glad she wasn't hurt. Nick will be coming home from Africa Wednesday. When he gets over his jet lag, I'm going to have an interview with him in the next couple of weeks, and I'm looking forward to it. Everybody stay safe and well. You are the most important part of this show, and we love you all. It's a great way to spend an hour together on a Monday night. We'll see you all next time. God bless America. Back to you, Bill.
Thank you, John. Now, who among us, like me, wants to see that dog, hear that doggone song, man? I'm gonna come hear a bootleg thing. And the other thing is, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that interview. We need to have that live if he's into it. And
Yeah,
also,
I told him, it's just for a few minutes. He'll just sit here. I'll ask you what you've been up to and what the band is doing and so forth.
I want to hear about Africa too. Come on,
Yeah.
that's good stuff. And I definitely want to hear both the two album set and the 7 album set. Let's set up a website, man. Let's let the world hear them before it's too late.
They're all over the place. They're on Instagram, YouTube, everything. I'll be sure and include the URL to all that stuff next time.
Awesome. Yeah, let's do it. All right, John, thank you. As always, amazing stuff. Let's talk about special notice. One thing, an amazing NHRA race. IHRA did great. I want to congratulate. Let me start with IHRA. I want to congratulate Lex and Gerda June, but they've been on a couple times. Lex and Gerda both came on the show. Lex June won the IHRA national event at Milan, Michigan this last weekend. His first major win in the United States, although won many times over in Europe. Congratulations to Lex and Gerda. That's unbelievable. Ran a nice series of like 390s and just got it done. And of course, a lot of other, Del Worsham winning in Funny Car. Lots of great stuff going on there. Rob McCain putting up all the results on Draglist. I saw tons of new Top Fuel entries today, and he's going to be going down through all the pros and then down through the pro mods and then down to the sportsman. He's been doing a great job. Also, congrats to Brittany Force, who once again set an all-time the best speed in drag racing, 343.16 miles an hour in Sonoma, rather. Unbelievable speed. They're still in the 360s, so no one's hitting 350s yet. But Doug Coletta got a 362.8 and at 241 himself, and actually won the event. So congrats to him, and congrats to all the winners. But just really exciting drag racing stuff going on these days. Coming up with some upcoming guests, thanks to Miss K and Mr. Pete out in LA on August 4th, next Monday night. Top alcohol funny car star Maddie Gordon, the second generation racer, joins us. She just won a big national event last weekend. So looking forward to having Maddie on here. We are off for the 11th. So have a good night off there and hope you do well. On the 18th, Jim Brewer, the legendary Peacemaker wheel standard driver, will be joining us. And then on the 25th, Ken Younggreen with his home-built Viper powered dragster is going to be joining us to tell us how he put that beast together. September 1st, we are off for Labor Day. September 8th, Johnny West, the legendary funny car racer, joins us. We're off on the 15th as well. I've got some IT work here to do in DC. Unfortunately, going to keep me away from the show. But on the 22nd of September, Chico Kodama from Moon Eyes comes to talk about his storied history and that terrific brand. On the 29th, announcing this for the first time, 29th of September, Dina Paris, the pro mod champ from years past, and she's still out there rocking and rolling. And we heard her most recently when she called in um, on a show for another guest. She's fantastic. Dina Paris is joining us on September 29th. On October 6th, also announcing this for the first time, Dave Gallegos, the Nitro Clown Nostalgia Funny Car Racer, is going to be joining us. So really excited to talk to Dave. And then the 13th is Columbus Day. Are we going to have, or Indigenous Peoples Day, if you will? Are we going to have a show that night? I don't know. We'll figure it out. But certainly have folks scheduled through the 6th of October. Thanks to Kay. Thanks to Mr. Pete Moriello. You guys are amazing. Let's go on to those we lost, folks. 3 folks to talk about this week. We missed this gentleman earlier, Lindy Einer. His name is Einer Gustav Lindholm, but he goes by Lindy out of Yorba Linda out there in John Forest Land. He's a great racer who just had a really great local following. Departed on July 3rd. He was 81 years old. So farewell to Lindy Lindholm. And just part of the racing family. On the 2nd, hang on, let me make sure it's on the 22nd of July, pardon me, we lost one of the greatest top alcohol funny car racers in the history of the sport, Fred Mandolini, the legendary wheeler dealer, the man with the Backman rat heads, who kept the Chevy Rodeck Motors competitive in top alcohol for years and years, and just one of the great racers of all time. Back when 650s were the absolute quickest you could go, Fred was in the 650s along with Ken Venny, along with Brad Anderson, along with Dale Armstrong, and the real greats. Truly, probably count him among one of the top 10 alcohol racers of all time, certainly in his era. But farewell to Fred Mandolini, the wheeler dealer from Schiller Park, Illinois, passing away on the 22nd. And another big name, this time from the sportsman ranks, on the 26th of July, we lost Joe Scott. Joe Scott, one of the top superstock racers in history, the 1977 U.S. National Superstock champion. Farewell to Joe Scott. So, gentlemen, you provided us a lot of thrills, and of course, our condolences to your families and many, many, many friends. But it's our proud duty to report it and to remember you a little bit for the impact you had on the sport of drag racing. And with that, let me turn it over to John for some final thoughts from you, sir.
Well, Matt Stutzman has done more with his feet than most people can do with their hands. And he's just an absolutely amazing human being. And it was an honor to meet him and have him on the show. He's a happy-go-lucky guy. He's just doing great. And man, you couldn't ask for a better friend than Matt Stutzman. And the things that he's done is an inspiration to everybody that listened to this show tonight.
Yeah, he's amazing. What amazes me most is that it's so recent. I mean, think of any other like Olympic athletes to picked up their sport, like 10, 15 years ago. And because it's 15 years ago now, this moment, but he's been competing at the Olympic level for years. So it's unbelievable how focused and quickly he came up to speed, and what is not an easy thing to do, right? Neither archery nor drag racing is easy to do, but just an impressive guy, and I'm glad to know him, as you said, John. Thank you. And so
we're looking forward to having Maddie with us next week. That's going to be a great show. She won at the last event that she raced at,
right,
and in top alcohol, but she's going to top fuel next year.
Ooh, look out. I hadn't heard that, so we'll hear all about it. We'll be able to pin her down, and get her to spill the facts. Right. Thank you, John. Let's do our wrap up, folks. We want to thank Matt Stutzman, who was amazing. Really great to meet you, sir. John Bachman, my brother, taking such good care of us with the posters and the great rock history. Kate Turkelson, our roving reporter who's out there getting us great guests. Pete Moriello, who does the very same for us out in LA. Rob McCabe, who's been racing and rocking and rolling on the drag lists. Tons of new entries there. Mel Bashore, thank you, sir, for the 50s era info. Ron Toombs and John Mernon II with the photographs. And of course, thanks in heaven to the big man, Danny White, who did this for us for so many years. Thanks also to Jeff Gilder of Zeus Digital Marketing, Racers Reunion, and Wingding Media. As I said earlier, click the like, and I'll say go down that way. Click the like button, the share button. Also, you can join our this channel, this YouTube channel, by clicking the little drag list block in the bottom right. And I'm actually not seeing it right now, but I think it's showing up on the YouTube channel. But thank you, John. So join our channel and join the cause. And also you can check in on draglist.com daily to see what's new. Lots and lots and lots of good stuff. And I implore you to go look at the drag lists themselves, because Rob McCabe's been filling in all the info, and these last several national events are adding crazy new times and crazy new info, plus all the IHRA Pro guys and gals now. That's really exciting. So a lot of the racers we haven't seen in a while back on the drag racing list, and I'm very excited about that. So with that, we'll say farewell. Have a wonderful week. And we'll see you next, man, it's already the end of July. Can you guys and gals believe it? I am not believing it, but we'll see you next Monday night for Maddie Gordon. Until then, adios.